say I want to visualize a more detailed view based on my customers, and I have the customers per top 10, and I'm looking at 10 customers overall, and I'm looking at their individual sales filtered on month. But on that same dashboard or in that same visualization, I always want at all times a number indicating the average of the largest sale per customer. This is a question we need to break up in a few different parts. So I want an average of the largest sale per customer. So per customer, let's go back and construct this visualization and this logic. So customer name, I have sales per customer. I have sales per customer. Let's quickly sort it. I have Sean Miller having the largest sale or sales in total, maybe over different orders, but still he's my dataset winner, let's say. He's my biggest customer. I want to indicate that and calculate the maximum sales per customer, and that I can use that value overall in my workbook, but not always being able to have that amount of detail in my visualization itself. So I have to yet create another calculation. I'm gonna make this the maximum amount sales per customer. And then you can already hear me coming with my favorite LOD calculation, fixed customer name. And I'm going to isolate the maximum sales. And I have to close that bracket. Apply, okay. And I'm gonna put that value next to it. And it's gonna indicate the same kind of behavior, because I have that amount of detail in this visualization just to show you that the calculation itself gives the same amount, because that visualization now is on that level. So we don't have to use that fixed in this structure. But if we want to remove all that detail being customer name, so remove my customer, remove the general sales, it's still the same. But if I now take an average, because this is now a summation of all those individual maximums, if I now average those, I can have my full number. Just to make it a little bit clearer, I have now my full number in the end here, if we want it in the beginning, like in the result. You can already see me playing a little bit with the formatting as well. But now we see that same result. And what this does now in the background is going over your full data set, looking at all your customers individually and picking up their maximum sales. And what we have done here is, from all those maximum sales summed up, we have taken an average. So all those maximums summed up, we have divided that by our total amount of customers. And that gives us that average. So the detail in the background is still on customer name, but that customer name is not anymore on our sheet itself. And we see the same kind of result in here. I have made a little comment in red in the exercise description itself. Don't get confused by the double aggregation, and that is, what is the average, which is the aggregation on my view itself, of the largest maximum value of sales per customer. So we have first taken the maximum in the calculation, and on the view specific itself, we have taken the average of all those values. So those were my three more basic challenges, being an overview of all the different LODs and how they work and when to use them and when they can be useful. Now I still also have a small case to show. So let me first go into the chat so I am sure that everybody is clear. I see that there are no specific new questions, so that's okay. So let's go and take a look at our retention analysis case. And this is a case study. I'm going to walk you through the different steps I took to generate this end result. So we are still looking, and as you can see, I'm still in the same workbook. I'm working with the sample superstore as a data source still. And I am looking at those customers again. You can see these customer names popping up again. And what am I doing here? I am selecting a few quarters in my filter in the middle screen. I'll put it real quick on top and show you what I am doing. So damn it, I was too quickly. Multiple values dropdown. You can see if I drop down this filter list, I have generated a date field, and that date field is constructed out of the year and the quarter of my original order date. And the way we do that, and that's the first step of this one, is you take your original date field and you create a custom date. That custom date can be on quarters. The date value will take into account the year. The year is the higher level above the quarters, and it will make year, quarter kind of values. I'm not going to press OK because I already have one like this. So, but this is my result. If we take a look, order date, quarters, date value. And we have a custom date created, and I've put that one on filter, and this is a gray bar, so it's a context filter. It will influence the calculations I'm doing and also the fixed calculations, and all the other LOD calculations will be influenced by this quarter date. And what I'm doing there is I'm selecting a few quarters, let's say, and those quarters are giving me the sales per customer in those selected quarters. And if those customers come back in all quarters is actually one level higher than the visualization level of detail, let's say. So I am then making some calculations, and I'll go into detail to those as well. So we are making an assumption, as in, let's do a test. Let's do a test. And let's count all the order date quarters, the total number. So independently of making a selection or not, we are going to count our order dates. And just by putting around those curly brackets, we are doing a fixed calculation based on our level of detail, and we are going to count those orders. Those amount of quarters, I'm sorry, that was confusing again. So I'm going to count the values of that date field, those quarters. I'm going to count them in total. And then I'm going to make a count based on the customer name and count those quarters again. There's going to be a difference because when there's customers in there, we have customers active in all of those quarters, and we have customers active only in a few of those. And it's by making a logical test, and that's my third calculation. That's a true-false calculation here, number 3. I've numbered them because otherwise it's so chaotic after a while. If we take a look, we are doing a logical test. I'm going to increase my screen here a little bit so you can see first calculation, and on the right in the editor you can always see a detail of what that calculation is made of. So if the total number of quarters picked in the quick filter is equal to the number of quarters in which each customer made a purchase, then that customer is in all of the selected quarters. So we have two fields, all and some. So the true or false condition. I've just aliased them. See, that's right-click alias the result of that calculation. I'm giving you a few more informational points, but if you rewatch it and remake this exercise, you will most probably just succeed because it's not that difficult. That's what I mean. Sometimes it's made difficult by going over it a little bit quicker, but the logic in the end is we have fixed on the count of those quarters for all, and we have fixed specifically on the customer name to make those distinctions between, are you as a customer in all the quarters, or are you in a few specific, only in the selected ones? And then you will be in the true, false kind of category. And to show you these customers, they are placed on their rank by an index. And an index is nothing more than a calculation indicating the index functionality. If we then use that field and drag it on, I'll drag it out just to show you. So we have the total sales of all those individual customers now lined up, and that index function is gonna pivot these values actually to all their individual customers. And by dragging in the index, now it's done correctly immediately because Tableau remembers in the background what you did with that calculation previously. But if we take a look and look at how that index is calculated, is based on the customer name. So every customer name, it looks at your sale value, and if it's the highest, you will have that top level kind of sort, let's say, like we see here. And then there's just that distinction based on the true and the false categorization, and that's put on color. So if we drag out that color, we just push in that color again. It's the same one as on top. It's a distinction based on their true, false, aliased all and some quarters. And what we see here is that a few customers come back every quarter, and a few come back only in those selected ones. And if I start selecting my quarters, you can see if I drag in the Q4 or the Q1 of 2019, you see that not all customers are in there. But this is a very specific example of how they relate to the clients I'm looking at in my selection of dates. Are they coming back in all my quarters or in some of the selected ones? So we have selected 6 or 7 now. Are they coming back in all of those 7? And are they coming back just in a few of those? And in some quarters, they are my least consistent clients. And in all quarters, those are my best clients because they come back in all of my selected quarters. And that's the flexibility of comparing a all. So that's the fixed count all. And then fixed on the customer name and seeing how many times they appear in those selected quarters.